Здравствуйте, спасибо большое, что пришли. Я перейду на английский. Hi everyone, I'd like to start with introducing our panelists here today. We have great panelists who represent some of the global leaders in social gaming space. Alex here is, he leads business development at 6 Waves, the leading Facebook publisher that's highly successful, specifically with some of big games developed in Russia and CIS. Vsevolod is from Walt Disney Company, Moscow office of Walt Disney Company. As you all probably know, Disney acquired Playdom in summer of last year, so are now a major player in global social gaming space and are actively developing the Russian business as well. Aki is creative director of Digital Chocolate. I guess all of you, or most of you, already attended his keynote speech, and I heard a lot of great things about the speech. So you're definitely a contender, if not the best speech of the show. And last but not least, Johannes, CEO and founder of Plinga, the leading European social games publisher, and by incidence our competitor as well. So we have a great team here, and I look forward to having an interesting discussion. I prepared a list of questions regarding some latest events in global social gaming market and some latest trends, as well as questions regarding what the participants think about Russian market, the CS market, the ecosystem, local platforms, and what their plans are. So I'd like to start with the easy question. I'd like to ask everyone, what's your favorite game? What's your favorite social game of this year so far? The game you played and liked most. The only request is it must be one of the games. It shouldn't be your company's game. Sorry. So who would like to start? I don't know if we should have some order or just feel free to answer as you go.
For me, it's easy. It's Army Attack.
So for me, it's easy. It's Army Attack by Digital Chocolate.
Correct answer. 1 point. You don't know.
Okay, I'll be next. So we'll probably soon publish Army Attack on a number of platforms, so I won't go with Army Attack. I would go for Magic Land, Uga's game.
The last one? Yeah. I would choose the Gardens of Time because we not developed it. It was developed somewhere in other territories. So it is a game that...
Okay, what's your second most favorite game?
Oh, okay. Mr. Man? Well, there was an information that Mr. Man already bigger than Gardens of Time. That's not true, of course. Well, we're trying to bring the Disney brand inside of games, so we just launched just half an hour ago a new game, and I hope that that will be the best game app for all of us, and you'll choose it next time. The next question will be asked.
You mean you launched on Facebook or
yeah,
in Russia?
Well, the local team, local office just launched on Russian Facebook, and we're going to expand it on other local networks.
What's the game?
Well, the game app joining the Disney branded mini games. It's over 30 games in there, so you just try it now.
All right.
After this meeting.
Well, wish you big success. It's your first game that's developed
actually,
locally.
It's first Disney branded app for social games ever. Well, before the US.
Okay.
It's really interesting experience for us here as a start.
All right. Well, best of luck. My next question, or
I could answer this one as well. I have to give credit to EA Playfish for the Sim Social, even if they have a very wide brand recognition behind them. They could have screwed it up. They didn't. It's a very solid product. So if you, for instance, want to learn something about gifting and requests, how they're optimally done in Facebook, you should take a closer look at the Sim Social.
Thank you. Okay, my next questions, I have prepared 3 or 4 questions about international expansion and Russian market. I'd like to start with this because I think this is one of the areas that's most interesting for the audience here. Obviously, everyone's interested to hear your perspective, what your international vision is. Local market, as you probably well known, is outside Facebook, so most of the market is dominated by local platforms. So it would be interesting to hear your view. And my first question is about, in general, what's your strategy for international expansion? Are you considering to seriously focus on platforms outside Facebook? And if so, which ones? And maybe you already have made some steps recently and have some success or failure stories you would like to share with us. And so please let us know some overview about this.
I can start this time. So it's not really something that is on my table, but obviously I'm aware of what the company is doing. And so for us at this current point in time, it's more about expanding cross-platform rather than across different social networks. We've had some, you could say, experiments with the other social networks other than Facebook, and we are still pursuing, like Jonas just said, Army Attack is coming out on different platforms. But regarding the Russian social networks, especially, I think it seems to make sense, having heard all the feedback, for instance, about the Army Attack here, that it would be complete foolishness not to do it. But for us, it's really about getting that sort of a good relationship going with the platform, because even if we are a relatively big company in this context, we still have to prioritize our resources, and it really comes down to that, and finding partnerships who can help with us with such tasks. So definitely, I mean, looking, listening and talking with people here, there's lots of developers, there's lots of platforms, there's tons of users. And even like you guys out there have like humbling DAUs, I hear every once in a while. So of course, in that sense, it makes for us also an attractive business opportunity. But yeah.
So what's the main reasons none of your games are still here, not released on any of the social networks?
Well, I think it's just a question of time when there will be. But for now, we still think that we're learning with Facebook, for instance. So I think that it's sort of a natural thing for us to we still have had some hits and misses regarding the process of updating games, in terms of we are not successful every week, you know, and I think we have. It's still like the game teams are working with the, you could say, the lead platform in mind, and there are all kinds of different things factoring into this, like
at what point do we take like a snapshot of a game in order to integrate into another platform, and how do we enable then the future updates being made to the sort of lead platform while that game is being integrated to another platform? How do we deal with that? So it's not that simple actually if we have a successful product on one platform to take it to another platform, because the service aspect sort of factors into the equation as well.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. I agree. It's technically a pretty complicated process, and it's good to hear that you're really evaluating this opportunity seriously.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So other than technical aspect, do you see, and also this was my next question. So do you see any other main concerns about entering Russian market? So to name a possible few concerns, maybe piracy or cloning is an issue that stops you from making games available here quicker, or maybe you expect Facebook to control and win like 90% of the market in Russia in very foreseeable future, in like 1-2 years time, or maybe platforms in Russia charge very high commission. That stops you. So those actually 2 or 3 points are some of the reasons I hear when we talk to potential partners and try to convince them. So that's why I named them. But do you think any of these are important, or maybe there are some other reasons as well?
Well, from our part, I just sort of refer back to what I was saying a bit earlier, that it's just out of, I think, also very pragmatic reasons that our headquarters in San Mato is like down the street from Facebook's headquarters. So it's sort of very easy and very sort of natural to develop a relationship with Facebook. So up to a point that they let us know of the updates and new things that they're going to roll out beforehand, and also for the same reason, I think it might seem sort of weird looking at the process from here, but for us, for those pragmatic reasons, launching something as one of the launch partners in Google Plus is just pragmatically easier for us, because we know the rules, we know kind of like the ecosystem, and I think you just referred to lots of those things relating and being part of the ecosystem that we just don't really know, and there are so many contingencies and uncertainties that might sort of delay the decision to actually go forward with such stuff.
Got it. Thank you very much. Johannes?
Yeah, maybe to add, generally, the platforms, social networks worldwide, of course, compete for the best games and the best developers. So it's always the question, how easy is it actually to get games live or to get games out to new platforms? And for developers around the globe, this is probably, with all those operational aspects, the biggest challenge. How quickly can we actually deploy on a new platform? With Plinga, we have obviously a very broad multi-platform approach, so we help developers from no matter where they're based to get access to quite a number of platforms by integrating with the Plinga platform, so to say. So it's one integration with our platform, and then you have direct access to a number of platforms out there, including local European networks and also the Facebook platform. This should exactly help you to reduce some of that friction, to make it easier to get started on a number of platforms. Because for a US-based developer, it's obviously not that easy to get in touch with Russian platforms, to get through the paperwork, and to, at the end of the day, also negotiate about maybe promotion packages or acquire users with any kind of ad system. So it's just from a very pragmatic point of view, not that easy, even though from a commercial point of view, it should make sense. I don't see any substantial reason why high-quality developers should not pay attention at Russian platforms, given the size and also the amount of money you can actually generate out here.
What's your strategy for Russian market?
What's your strategy for Russia?
So with Klinga, we're obviously new to the Russian market, but it's very much of interest for us. So we like the platforms, both the existing local players and also growing Facebook. So being a publishing company that works with quite a number of developers from Asia, from the States, we're very interested in also growing in Russia, and this will be a focus for us, yes.
I would ask for an excuse to switch into Russian, because I think, well, we're trying to be local and speak local language. And I'll tell you later if you would like to know our strategy. That won't be a secret for you. Компания Disney на российском рынке в социальных играх — это игрок совсем новый. Мы буквально там 2 месяца только назад запустили наше первое локализованное приложение в моем мире сначала, потом в Одноклассниках. Наша стратегия, и мне на этот вопрос очень интересно ответить, потому что здесь уже были вчера доклады о том, как слоны приходят на локальный рынок. Хочется пролить на это свет, чтобы это не было загадкой, не вызывало какие-то толки ненужные. Мы здесь делаем 2 вещи. Мы хотим сюда приносить те лучшие игры, которые есть в Playdom в Америке, локализовывать их, и причем не просто переводить. Мы уже давно тоже поняли, что это не работает, а адаптировать их, подстраивать под локальную ментальность, под то, чтобы они лучше подходили российским игрокам, лучше вписывались в ту модель монетизации, которая действует в России. Как вы знаете, там в Америке она гораздо более мягкая, и чтобы это было релевантно аудитории. Мы понимаем, что, наверное, не все продукты, которые делает Playdom глобально, будут вписываться в эту модель легко, поэтому мы с самого начала смотрим на локальную разработку, и сейчас есть уже несколько проектов, которые мы разрабатываем. Вот один только что запустили, но это скорее игровое приложение, а вот такие полноценные игры, которые мы здесь все понимаем под играми, сейчас в разработке, и тоже в ближайшие месяцы будут запускаться. То, что мы пытаемся здесь сделать, это мы очень активно смотрим на то, чтобы привносить IP в игры, чтобы это была не просто игра, а игра про кого-то, про какого-либо персонажа, например, про какой-либо IP, который есть в Disney. Это может быть Disney branded IP, персонажи, которые вы все знаете, или не Disney branded. Команда Disney приобрела Marvel какое-то время назад. Есть телеканалы в составе группы Disney, такие, например, как ABC, с очень большими, интересными, громкими именами сериалов, тоже, которые вы все знаете, такие как, там, не знаю, Lost, Отчаянные домохозяйки и так далее, и так далее. И мы смотрим на все эти property, и мы сейчас смотрим на возможность делать игры брендированные. С этой точки зрения мы очень активно готовы сотрудничать с локальными командами. И тоже смотрим на рынок в этой связи, да, и ищем здесь партнеров и готовы работать вместе. Ну вот как-то так.
Спасибо большое. Переходим на английский. Алекс,
sorry, that's Russian. No, I think the same.
Did you understand every word?
Yeah, I agree with them.
Okay,
it's just
great.
that we have the same strategy. Actually, we are also focusing more on the cross-platform development rather than cross-SNS. So we don't have really a very developed strategy to expand out of Facebook right now. We tend to focus more on our platform.
Okay. Do you think, actually, just to finish this, Johannes mentioned that he believes that it's not due to market size. So, is market size not an issue for you? So, do you consider like Russia too small compared to your main platform, Facebook, or is this not the case? So maybe like your minimum target is to make $1 million per month, and you think that it's possible in Russia, and that's the reason.
No, I mean it's yeah, of course it's smaller, and we just look at the cost of opportunity and the upside possible. It's not that like number focused; it's more like a general feeling. We're not a huge company, and we prefer to focus our resource and to be the best. And actually, I mean, like everybody else, we can feel that there's really a need to shift some resource to a cross-platform and mobile initiative. So we cannot just do so many things at the same time. If we had more resource, I would definitely think we would be more interested to move towards Russia.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, my next question is about Russian development ecosystem. So probably that's a question that you like more, Alex. Russian market is pretty unique, not only in a way that it has local social networks that are much stronger than Facebook, but also if you look at top 20 best performing social games in Russia, probably all of them, or like all but one, are locally developed, and most of them are developed by independent studios with no venture funding that grew organically. And in most cases, they just have one game that's highly successful, and maybe less often they have 2 or 3 games that are successful. So this is very different from Facebook, where Zynga is really dominating the market, and there are maybe 2 or 3 more very large players. Like, what's your opinion of this? And do you think this is a healthy ecosystem? Do you think it will evolve and it will become more like Facebook, or do you think do you see maybe Facebook evolving in a similar way? So maybe smaller companies growing and then Zynga losing its market dominance.
I'll take it. So what you've just said exactly matches what I had heard from other parties on this conference and also previously, and it's actually good to hear, because when we started off with Plinga like 2 years ago, we mainly sourced games from Asian developers, Chinese developers, Korean developers. We thought this would be a good starting point to then add US developers as a kind of a second wave of developers we work with. We were to some extent surprised to see that the games we had sourced from Asia in many cases are totally compatible with the games that we have sourced from the States. So the top Asian games which are successful on Asian platforms work just as good as the top games from US developers which work exceptionally well on the Facebook platform. Now, the next step I'm assuming is that also the top games you guys develop out here in the Russian-speaking world should be on par, or should be competitive to what we have seen from developers in Asia or in the States. So obviously I'm just here to encourage all of you who are developing games to take a look at European platforms, at platforms outside of Russia, to take the step and really take the risk, because there's huge opportunities out there, and I expect from what I've seen that your games will do very well outside of Russia as well. Important is just, as always, if you go to new countries, new platforms, try to build your game in a way that it is actually localizable and that it's as easy as possible to deploy on other platforms. So don't focus too much on a single platform while building the game, but rather make it as flexible as possible to deploy on other platforms.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to say that our analysis regarding Facebook is really that Zynga has achieved this kind of a position of non-displacement, as it's been called, like because they sort of managed to get their sort of a lead during the era that virality was, for instance, much more open, and therefore now they have this kind of huge user base that they can cross-promote from one game to another, and it seems that is working very well. They have like very dedicated users, so in a sense that Zynga is one of the few sort of brands that actually the players are starting to recognize that it's more than the game brand, it's Zynga's game. So I would say that it's increasingly hard to become a really big player in Facebook, so the space has consolidated, at least to some extent, but of course Facebook is still a huge platform, so especially in the more like niche side of the market, more niche products which demand more dedicated, slightly more hardcore players, we are seeing companies like us in our own way, and companies like Kabam and different smaller players still making profit in that niche. So it's really about sort of having a clear strategy and clear expectations and a sort of product market fit in a sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we just started on this market, and I cannot say that we can judge in details how it works here, but my first impression that the picture that you just described, that the companies with one game leading on this market, shows that the market is still really young. It's a kind of wild market where the company, the great developer, made the genius game, entering the market to just collecting money from it, not trying to build a long-term strategy, not planning the next game based on the best practices they've learned from the first product. So it should be going to the more to the Facebook model, as I think, where this level of publishers will appear. Managing this process, managing the long-term success and helping the developers be on market with several products, supporting this level of revenue they receive.
Okay, great, thanks. Alex, would you like to add something? Or?
No, the only thing I've been coming to this to meet Russian developers for a long time, and I'm always very impressed by the quality of game I see in this country. I mean, in this region, let's say, Eastern Europe. And I think I'm not sure whether Facebook will be the winner in the end in terms of social networks, but there's a high probability that we'll see more and more Russian games at the top of all the social networks around the world, because just the quality, there's such a difference of quality between, for example, the US and Eastern Europe. But I think I'm very positive.
You mean Eastern European games are better?
Yeah.
Quality? All right.
I think the quality is here. I mean, from what I see, and when you assume that a lot of these companies are very young, I mean, what is it going to be when they have more experience? And no, they really, in terms of creativity, in terms of design, in terms of programming skills, I'm very bullish on the Russian market.
Right, well, it's great to hear, and I think you're doing a great job in helping some of those games become high profile on Facebook. Okay, so thank you very much for all your input, and now I'd like to talk a little bit more about maybe more global trends, and one of the things that's possibly the biggest event of the past few months is launch of Google Plus and the gaming platform there. I'd like to ask what's your experience, if you already launched games there, if not, do you plan to soon, and how big is it for you? So is it part of your strategy? And thirdly, what's your opinion? How big will Google Plus be as a social network and as a gaming platform, for example, compared to Facebook? Will it be more like 10%, or will it be more like 100%? Will they, do they have a chance to grow into a global leader?
I can start because we do have a product on Google Plus. So Zombie Lane was one of the titles there from launch, and obviously the volume of players is quite a lot lower than with Facebook, but some of the metrics are promising. So we are definitely manning the project and trying to keep it in a good shape, and basically just monitoring the situation. And what we had to do in practice was that we in order to get it to the launch date of Google Plus, we did something that I referred to earlier, that we had to take a snapshot of the game, and then that means that all the content that is now in the Facebook version is not yet in the Google Plus versions, because the game has been out for months and months. But now we are reaching the stage that once we update the Facebook version the same features are inherited to the Google Plus version. So those are the kind of like not only technical actually issues, but also product management issues, and because they shape the expectations of what kinds of revenues and other metrics we can get from there. But definitely, I think everybody has an opinion whether Google Plus is gonna catch Facebook or not. I'm just trying to think from the user and player, especially player perspective, so that if you have like your gamer graph, in a sense, as part of the social graph in Facebook, it's increasingly hard to move that to Google Plus, unless Google Plus manages to invent a new sort of a game product category, a genre, or a set of mechanics that are not, and somebody is willing to launch that in Google Plus rather than Facebook. So they certainly have their work cut out ahead for them. But yeah, for us, it's also important as a strategic partnership, because we all know how huge Google is and so forth.
Thank you. And you mentioned you have Zombie Lane live. Do you have bring your other games?
Well, let's put it this way: we are working on solutions that would make us, in general, more easier to take our games to other platforms, and that the Google Plus is there, as now we have a concrete case regarding the different integration issues. So yes.
Right. And one last thing, can you share some metrics from Zombie Lane on Google Plus?
No. Sorry. No,
maybe the installs or data use.
Yeah.
I think it's like something that's
actually, I won't say anything because I don't remember the exact numbers. I saw them last week, but I don't want to sort of say anything.
Last week, no numbers would work.
Yeah, but let's.
All right. Sorry. Got it. Worth trying.
We don't have any games on Google Plus, so I can't share any figures. Generally, it's an attractive platform, maybe just to add that. Obviously, even though we knew Google was working on something, to some extent came out of the blue as a maybe Facebook competitor that should be considered a real competitor. So it's probably interesting to just follow up on it and keep an eye on future performance of the platform. I've heard that it is also attractive in terms of revenue and some of the other KPIs for developers that have been in this first wave on the platform. So,
can you share some metrics that you heard?
No, really rather general. Obviously, way smaller than Facebook, but there is some developers that at least make a couple of thousand in revenue per day on the platform, which in the early days isn't that bad.
Yeah, I could add another thing, that one of the reasons that we don't want to draw very sort of final conclusions. It's still early days, it's early adopters, and we don't think that it's really indicative of the sort of more mainstream audience that would be playing there anyway. So that's why we are basically monitoring the situation, see how it develops.
Yeah, makes sense. So I think you have a couple games on.
Yeah, I played and launched 2 games as far as I remember, the City of Wonder and Wild Ones on the platform. I also can share the metrics, sorry for that, but if you're deeply interested, I'll try to get something, drop your mail and I'll find the information. Well, we're also trying to be on the edge of technology age and trying to monitor the new trends like appearing in a new platform. As I remember, the Playdom launched with the game section kind of simultaneously, so having some relationship with the platform, with the Google platform there. My personal feeling that the Google is a pretty strong company with great technologies, and we all see the success of the Android platform, and I think in integrating these two ideas like Google Plus and Android, it may help the platform win at some level, but I'm not really sure that in short term or even middle term, Google Plus will hit Facebook.
Thank you. Alex, the 6th wave, you don't have any live games on Google Plus. Are you working on getting some of your games live?
Not really actively. So no, I don't have anything really meaningful to say about this.
Looks like you're really focused on Facebook.
Yeah, we stay focused on Facebook.
Great. Thanks. One other trend that's maybe becoming big that I wanted to discuss with you is games based on IP, on intellectual property, movies or mass market brands or video game brands. And then also like a trend that is related to that is sequels. So there have been recently several sequels announced or launched, and there have been several highly successful games. Obviously the most successful is Sims Social, but then Smurfs has also been doing pretty well and hit over 1 million daily active users on Facebook. And then a few more games are announced, like Godfather. What do you think about this trend in general, and are your companies part of it already? Like, do you consider it part of your strategy?
All right, I'll start off. So by looking at other gaming subsectors, it's probably, or it can be expected that this is going to be the future. The biggest players in the market will leverage their position and also their size and their existing IP and try to make use of that in a still relatively young industry like social gaming. So sequels like Mafia Wars 2 now, or some of the IP you just mentioned. Probably in the industry, most people would expect that Zynga and the other big players stick to that track and throw out new games which have some IP, which are well known basically worldwide, to just leverage what they have in place as much as possible within this still relatively young new social gaming industry. So I would expect this trend to continue, and I expect it to be even bigger in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Also, even if for developers it's at the same time it can be a very attractive proposition to work with a big brand. But I think if anyone here has been working with licenses, it can be also a bit of a hassle in terms of managing a project and sort of having ownership of who has the ownership of the vision and all that stuff. But we've been quite lucky in the sense that we've been approached by bigger brands to them wanting to us make a sort of branded version of our products, but there's nothing concrete out yet, but we're very open to that and still sort of working on that.
Well, we of course from that point of view, and think that we hope that branding in game will help the game to be successful and profitable. We have no examples, I think, at this stage, even in the US, but I personally feel like it would be great to play the game based on Tron franchise or Pirates of the Caribbean, something like that, to bring all that world into the game.
Are you working maybe already on Tron or Pirates games?
I don't know.
Anything you can announce here?
Not yet. Well, talking about the licensing issues, we're trying to make this process as soft as possible. We're working locally with all local developers in other lines of businesses. Let's say licensing products or producing games. Like video games based on Disney IP, Disney franchises. So I don't feel like it should be kind of stop points going forward, but I hope that it should work in coming months, in coming years. The brands should come into the games, into the social.
Actually, I have something meaningful to say this time. So if you have attended my fantastic presentation yesterday, basically one of the points I was making is, from my point of view, right now there has been very little conclusive evidence that branding helps on the game success. Sims Social is very successful, but Smurf, but they are also very good games. So, but one thing which is sure is branding definitely helps on monetization, so on revenue. So if a game is good and you can use branding, even if it's not, the game is not fully branded, but you can use branding to make money. And it can definitely be a plus in acquiring user at a very low cost, but still if the game is good, if the gameplay is there. The problem is sometimes people sacrifice, I think, the gameplay to the branding, and which can cause some misfortunes, like we did actually. We launched several games which were heavily branded, but there was no gameplay behind, and they failed.
Thank you. That's actually very interesting feedback, and I think, like, I personally tend to agree. So I think so far what we've seen is like with Sims, it's a great game. So probably if it didn't have Sims brand, it would still rock. So it would still be a big game. Okay, my next question. One other trend that is that emerged a while ago, but it's becoming more and more evident, is that games are becoming more complex and hardcore. Do you think this will continue, and do you maybe see some convergence between, like, the browser or MMO games and social games? And if so, like, what's your guess as to how long it will take?
Yeah, definitely. I think the games are becoming more hardcore. It doesn't mean that they should not be casual. That means you can have a game which is both hardcore and casual. If you from the start you say reduce your game to a hardcore gaming, it will basically repulse a lot of users, and you cannot just make money with hardcore users most of the time. So if you want to grow a game, you need still the first level to be very casual, and then you can actually put some complexity into the game to address the other crowd. So you don't have to make a choice between one or the other. And I think, yes, the games are becoming more complex, more depth, but they still are very easy to get in to most users. And when we are successfully done with tutorials and with the first 20, I mean, I don't know about you, but generally I raise up to the second level very quickly in any game. So either I'm very talented or it's very casual at the beginning.
Yeah, I can only agree. I wouldn't say it's only the complexity or the question of how hardcore a certain game is. It's just a certain focus on specific user groups. By now, some of the big companies address the mass market in a way that it's getting more and more difficult for especially small to medium-sized companies to compete for this very audience, this mass market audience. So it only makes sense to build games which don't have all the 35-year-old female users as the key audience, but rather a specific user group, maybe even in specific countries. They can have a focus in acquiring users, and then also in keeping those users within the game for as long as possible. But overall, I agree. Games tend to become more and more complex as they get better and better.
Yeah, I bring this discussion down to this idea of a profitable niche, and I think now we're seeing that even the more sort of complicated end, more hardcore end of games in Facebook, for instance, are profitable, and their metrics in that sense are very attractive, very lucrative. So as a developer, I think then it comes down to that you can't really go over the top with the hardcore. So we come back to what other guys were saying here about the sort of casual angle to the hardcore, and I think Henrik was yesterday speaking. Henrik from Google was speaking about the smart depth and stuff like that. So it's like catering to quite a big audience, so that they can develop different types of play there, so that some people are happy to just grind away
without optimizing too much. But if the game has elements where you can feel smart about sort of optimizing the way and become, for instance, more competitive, I think that's something that we are now beginning to see. So for instance, player versus player, which in the early days of Facebook felt like too intimidating for players and so on and so forth. And competition drives many of the metrics, including retention and monetization. So it's very attractive. I think that the danger for developers is to sort of go too niche or then make a mismatch in terms of the theme of the game, for instance, so that that might drive it towards too much obscurity, for instance. So you still have to think, I think, in terms of mass market themes, even if your gameplay would be more complicated and competitive and hardcore.
One other big thing that's happening globally is huge growth that mobile market is experiencing. How active are your companies in mobile, and what's the main trend? If you if you had to choose one main trend, how you see the market evolving? So maybe new platforms or existing platforms like Android becoming big, or HTML5 games becoming big. What would you what would it be in your opinion? So which there are a lot of things happening within mobile. Which one of those things do you expect to cause most disruption, like to the market, and become dominant one?
Well, a couple of years ago, the Java games market was pretty strong here in Russia, and we had the development of Java games locally. Now we're switching into new smartphone era with Android and iOS leading this, and we're not producing the games in Russia for this new platforms, but we already have some games made in US and localized. Well, 2 days ago, I believe, the new game was launched on iOS, Where's My Water, or something like this, and it's already in top. So we have some examples of entering these new platforms. We're still trying to bring the story and brand into this, and we have some applications made in Russia based on well-known IPs like Chip and Dale and Dark and Duck here in Russia, but it's not on smartphone yet. So we're just switching into new platform here in Russia. But globally, yes, we're already there, and we're already working on this market.
Do you know what's your globally most successful game on mobile market right now? Is it City of Wonder, or?
Well, as we bought the Tapos, can we name the Tapos games?
Oh, right, yeah.
Like Tap Revenge.
All right, I feel obligated to answer because, of course, those of you who know Digital Chocolate from a long way back, we were born on mobile, and obviously we have a lot of legacy and knowledge from mobile in that sense, and like now, I guess the top of mind products when people think about us are Zombie Lane and Army Attack, but we have been working on mobile stuff all the time. For instance, for the lower end handsets in like global context for South America and stuff like that, and still a profitable market. But of course, during that mobile times, one of our strengths was that we were able to build technology and like chains of tools that where we could port games to different handsets, and now we are taking that knowledge to cross-platform tools. So you will be seeing our Facebook products also arriving at mobile very soon, actually. And about the sort of trends you were asking about, I think free-to-play definitely is something that I would raise, that it's in-app purchases free to play.
And sorry for interrupting, like technologically or platform-wise, what would you say? Who would you?
That's a tough one. I think we try to be platform agnostic in a way, that we try to create tools that could enable us to work and publish on different platforms, and just like then pick the cherries if there emerges a leader there. But obviously now it's still the iOS that is dominating in terms of revenue.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So as of today, we don't have games, any mobile games, mobile social, anything like that. So it's a little bit a personal opinion from an outside perspective. Being a developer, I would, as of today, probably not start developing for iOS anymore. It's certainly the area where most of the big ones make the majority of their revenues as of today, but it's also very competitive. So I would probably rather make a bet on either Android or even HTML5 going forward. That's just a personal opinion.
Thank you. Alex, I know you announced a big $10 million fund for mainly for mobile applications, for mobile games. Can you tell us a little more about it? Maybe you already have some first games launched or about to be launched.
Yeah, but it's not just mobile, it's any kind of development. We created a fund for developers to help them finance that project. So it's open to all kinds of mobile or Facebook developers. Since part of the deal is we being a publisher of it, of the game. And of course, I agree with Johannes. I mean, everybody. I think it's pretty straightforward that HTML5 Android will be probably one of the best vehicle for future revenues and the best way to play this kind of time management games in the future. So we're all thriving in that direction, but right now we're still in a fun for my company. We're still not in a way where we can boast about anything yet.
Thank you. Okay, so to finish off, I have 2 or 3 questions about some metrics. I know you don't like questions about metrics, and you're very protective. But I'd appreciate if you cannot give exact numbers, maybe you can give some indication or share some information that you're happy to share. Maybe not about your games, but about some rumors you heard about your competitors' games that you're happy to share, just to help us understand better the market size, what successful games are, how much money they make, and so on. So my first question is, like on Facebook, what game would you or your company consider successful? For example, in daily active users, or in revenue, or in ARPDAU? Is there some minimum level that you'd say that if the game's above this level, then it's successful, if not, then it's not so successful?
400,000 DAU. It's a good level for, I would say, for a successful game for us.
And what ARPU do you consider good, and what ARPU do you consider
I would say
average?
It's confidential, of course, but I would say 2 US cents per day ARPU is considered like decent. But on the new games, it's right now it's more like 5-6 cents.
Thank you.
Daily ARPU.
Yeah, what I can tell you is that I think we do consider like 1 million DAU to be over that it's like a mass market hit, and I was earlier referring to this like going towards a profitable niche or mass market, so this would be like mass market, and then a profitable niche can be significantly lower, but still we don't consider anything like that you can't count in hundreds of thousands profitable for us really. And I think
regarding the ARPUs and everything, I think we just heard like the industry standards, so it's pretty much those are our expectations of from products.
Maybe to add, in terms of market sizes, generally there are still just as many users on social networks worldwide outside of Facebook as there are on Facebook, so that's important to understand for everybody. And also in terms of monetization, if you look at certain countries, usually monetization on the local platform in that very country tends to be similar to monetization on the Facebook platform in that very country. So Germany, for example, we have a local platform which is called Visinet. We have ARPUs on that platform in a similar range. Germany is a high ARPU country for sure, 3, 4, 5. For some games, even more cents daily ARPU, and similar things hold true for the games on Facebook in Germany. So this just adds another Facebook to this market if you combine all these social networks which are out there in addition to this platform.
Thanks. Just to continue or finish up with ARPUs, so did you see it grow over the last maybe 12 months? So if you compare ARPUs, what was considered industry standard or average a year ago to what it is now, did it grow, and by how much do you expect it to continue growing, and how you plan to keep it growing?
I'll start off. So for most of the games in our portfolio, generally ARPUs increase as games tend to get better and better, and as also games tend to address a certain user group which the game is specifically built for. So ARPUs generally increase, whereas the number of users within a certain game does not necessarily grow, or didn't necessarily grow over the last 12 months. So I would say it's still very good to have a game out there with 500,000 EU or whatever size. This has also been true a year ago, but ARPUs tend to get better and better as the games have more depth and more complexity.
Actually, I would complete that statement with the fact that the raise in ARPU is due to two factors. One is, which I observed, of the doubling of the pay rate. So people are paying more.
More paying users, right?
Paying user, yeah.
So what's the average?
1 to 2%, something like that. It's even more now. So the paying rate has increased in the last year, and at the same time the RPPU has increased. So that's what explains definitely a very high growth in RPU.
Is it because games that are is it because games are getting more hardcore, or maybe your user base is changing, you have maybe more user base from Western high monetizing markets, or is it both?
It's really, I think it's really mostly the games. It's because we see in the same market these figures increase. So and they increase not all across the board. They increase only on specific games. So really, how you monetize, how you leverage your existing user base to make revenue is really crucial. You can triple revenue all the time.
Great. Okay, I have another question about finances. What would you say is currently an average budget to develop a good social game? And also, I guess there are two budgets. One is development budget, and then another one is user acquisition, marketing budget. So could you give us some idea what those figures are in current market and how much they changed over the last year or 2 years?
I think what we have seen is the marketing budget have exploded on Facebook. So the development costs also have increased tremendously. But I think right now it's really hard, and that's probably why, as as some of us mentioned, that's why it's really hard to get in right now. It's a very difficult market to get in because the games are not viral, so you need to acquire the users, and to acquire users is very expensive because everybody is doing the same thing at the same time. So since it's a bidding system, the bids have increased, and you don't really have an alternative. So the marketing budget have really exploded, and that's why we publishers are actually bring value to the developers, because you can have a great game, but if you don't have, it's very hard to grow. It's possible. I mean, look at Digital Chocolate. They really publish very good game, and they grew also on their own. But otherwise, in general, it's becoming more and more difficult to do it. Even if you have great games, to get a start, you need really a boost in terms of marketing, and it's a lot of money.
Is there any other feedback?
Maybe the thing, I think it depends so much on the team size and everything, and I think one of the key principles we are also working with, which Henrik from Luka mentioned yesterday, that it's really when the game is launched, when it's successful, then the team size increases. So there is not really any sort of absolute, production cost or post-production and post-launch cost. In our studio, what I can tell you is that usually the games are being developed in a team of around 12 to 20 people, and it takes for a game to takes maybe like 6 to 8 months to produce. Yeah.
So it comes to a budget of over $1 million, I guess, on average.
Depends. Finland is where I work at. It's a very expensive place to hire people. So. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay. My next question is. Is the market, due to recent financial market general developments, you probably have all heard that both Zynga and Facebook are likely or are considering to shift their IPO dates and wait for better market conditions to go public. But they have pretty aggressive goals in terms of the valuation of the company. For Facebook it's around 100 billion, for Zynga it's about $20 billion. Do you think those they will hit those numbers, and what's your overall perspective in terms of continued growth of the market? Will company valuations grow? Will venture capitalists continue to invest, make large, like 7 or 8 digit investments into social and mobile, or do you see it changing now due to poor market conditions or market saturation or some other factors?
So I'll start off maybe on a global level. Macro market conditions are probably a little bit under pressure right now. So it's for good reasons that some of the biggest companies have postponed IPOs, and that there is certainly some pressure. Taking this down to a level of VC financing or even angel financing for new companies in the space, be it social or mobile or any kind of gaming venture. I don't see a massive downturn in the number of investments right now. So if you need funding, it should still be possible. As always, just got to find your niche you're kind of working on. But on a macro level, yes, there's some pressure on the finance level for individual companies which are not on that IPO track yet. I think there's still some good opportunities out there.
Any other comments?
Well, Well, I could just give you a sort of a case example of what is happening in Finland. Even I'll come to it, well, how it relates to the situation over here. Maybe is that even if like in the past year or so, there's been companies that have been closed down, gaming companies, but then they have had lots of very experienced professionals who've been working in the gaming industry close to 10 years or so, and now these guys are starting new startups, and because they are able to gather teams with lots of experience and sort of a good track record, there has been a lot of money pouring into Helsinki especially, and there's a very lively startup gaming scene there. So I think that's something that, for instance, Ukrainian developers who are sort of going into the second round, and they sort of know what it takes to make a successful product. I think they're well off, but at the same time, I think we are seeing lots of cases, especially in Silicon Valley, where of course this happens all the time in the tech industry, that there was lots of VC money going into the companies, and now, as we discussed here as well, that it's harder and harder to break into, especially the Facebook space in terms of business. Then that might affect how VC money is available in the near future over there, at least. So.
Great, thank you very much. Any other comments, please, or? Okay, well, that's actually, that's it. I ran out of questions. My last question, and then I guess it's time for the audience to ask what they're interested to know. Is your general opinion of the conference and Kiev? I'm not sure for how many of you it's first time, but I guess for some of you it's first time here, so please let us know what you think.
Okay, so for me it has been the first time, and I think it's been great. I've met a lot of people, a lot of developers who are seem to be very passionate about what they're doing, and I think that's a key thing. You need to be passionate, and if you're able to marry that with expertise and being humble and learning, then that's a good start. So yeah, for me it's been a very positive experience, so thanks.
Yeah, I can only agree. It's the first time I'm here, and it's definitely good to see that so many developers are out here. I'm attending similar conferences in different regions of the world, and there's not that many conferences where really the developers actually are present at high numbers to exchange information, to talk about where to publish their games, whom to work with, etc. So it's definitely good to be here. And if you're interested in bringing your games outside of Russia, let me know.
Well, that's my second time here. I was a year ago, first conference. It was really great. It is even greater this time. It's one of the must conference to visit for our company, for my personal department. And well, it's really productive because first of all, I think we all switching from our day-to-day work to the kind of new atmosphere, trying to get more ideas, listen other companies, use kind of other experience in this market. And secondly, it's a place to meet with friends, with colleagues, with potential partners, and make some deals. It's great for us.
Yeah, I came to Kiev like 2 months ago for holidays, so I like the place.
Oh, you chose it as a holiday destination?
Yes.
All right, cool. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering my questions, and I'm sorry if some of them were too insightful, maybe asking for too much insight. So I'd like to ask now the audience to, if you have any questions, please just go ahead. I think there is a microphone here, if you'd like to use it.
Если говорить о принципе, одна игра, один игровой мир, куда приходят игроки со всех социальных сетей. В России данный принцип уже начал поддерживаться соцсетями. Как вообще это в мире? Какая тенденция?
Спасибо. There's a principle that recently started to become supported by Russian social networks, is that one game would have one single world that will be playable across all networks or maybe all devices. And what do you think about this? Maybe you're already working on something like that as well for your new games or your existing games.
So does it mean the game is sort of interoperable, so that you are playing the same game with the mobile handset and continuing on the browser?
Well, I think in case of Russian platforms, it's more across web social networks, but you can have one persistent world. So friends, all the interaction is across all three platforms, and it's like one world, right? Is that what you were asking? Does that make sense? And do you think it's an attractive idea?
Well, I don't have a direct answer, but what we found out, actually, because the very first project we did, taking our Facebook game Millionaire City to the iPhone some time ago already, and what we found, we were sort of discussing this decision of whether to make that interoperable, so that the people who would be picking up the iOS version would be playing the same game, in the sense that they could continue it on both platforms. But actually what we found out was that there wasn't that much overlap between the players, so we were able to find a new audience in the mobile space. So so I think interoperability in that sense might be sort of fascinating in terms of technology. So but it's not necessarily always the most sensible business solution. I'm just raising the question.
Right. So in other words, it's like an idea that sounds cool, but it's not really something that users need at the moment.
From a business sense, but of course, if it's different social networks that you can access from the same device, then it might make more sense in terms of acquiring users. So it's hard to say.
Right.
My question is about user acquisition budgets and Facebook. Let's say I'm a small team and I have a new product, and I have about $5,000 per month to spend on user acquisition. Can I do anything with this amount of money? And if I can, what can I do with this amount of money?
My advice is to throw a party, because it's not a lot. I mean, the CPI is about $1 on most markets. So with $5,000, you buy 5,000 users.
Thank you.
As publishers, you are spending a lot of time looking for proper developers to work with. How do you decide what developer to work with or what developer not to work with? What is the best traits a developer should have in order to get?
Можно чуть-чуть программчик плохо слышно. Мне кажется, мы не понимаем вопрос.
When you're deciding what developer to work with or not to work with, what are you looking for in these developers? What is the most important traits a developer should have in order to get signed with you?
Спасибо. Johannes?
So if the game is already live on a certain platform, then it's obviously an easy start to actually take a look at the KPIs the game has on this very platform. So that's the start. And then starting from there, it always makes sense. And we, within Plinga, have a game team that evaluates games according to certain metrics, which are also the metrics all the developers will take a look at while building a certain game. Meaning we try to come up with reasonable judgment about retention features within the game, about monetization capabilities, to just come up with a judgment on how fast can this game grow and how much users will actually stick around. And then the third point, how much of those users will be paying users or will become paying users at one point of time. So it's actually those two things. If the game is already live, we take a look at the KPIs, revenue, installs, DAU, these kind of things. And if the game is still being developed, then we dig deeper into the games while playing the games, and we're trying to judge those points I just mentioned.
So what I've heard during this entire conference is that most social game developers are getting ready to become multi-platform, to have their own technology or use engines and platforms like HTML5 to be easily multi-platform. What do you guys, as publishers, as developers, advise for younger game developers that don't have all this tech to churn out what you guys might be interested in, that multi-platform, like one press button, everything is out there on every platform you want? How should game developers who don't have that tech yet but can make good games, social games, rear and prepare themselves for this multi-platform coming that you guys are already ready for, or looking for?
Easy answer, work with partners, obviously. From day one, try to keep your system flexible and work with partners. So to be on multiple platforms, it's possible already as of today, if you work with publishers, for example, and also across platforms in the sense that you add mobile, for example. It's doable if you start building a flexible system and software and work with partners. If you don't have the resources on your own, that's, in my opinion, the best and only way to get things started and just grow the game successfully across platforms.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd add that even if there are tools geared for this purpose, also like in-house or just proprietary. It's still, if you take, let's say, a Facebook game and you can't simply port it to mobile platform, because there are different things having to do which affect directly the user experience. So the UI needs to change, also the social graph figures differently and stuff like that. So even once again, it's a very cool idea to have this technology, and it can help, of course, reduce the production time, but you still need your designers. You still need your artists to finish and polish the product. So it's actually, I think it's then you need to have the mindset, that cross-platform mindset from the very beginning, and you can do it.
There's actually one solution that I thought of. There's a company called Spaceport. So they are building and are actually licensing to third-party developers a cross-platform solution to build social games across web and mobile devices. So you might want to check them out.
Есть еще вопросы? Поскольку вопросов больше нету, то предоставляем слово Тарасу Тарасову.
Давайте еще раз поблагодарим участников нашего круглого стола. Они приехали издалека, специально для нас, для всех. Большое спасибо, я хотел сказать большое спасибо всем за то, что вы пришли, за то, что вы приехали. Вся эта конференция была сделана исключительно для вас, и благодаря вам, и благодаря нашим уважаемым спонсорам. Я хочу вас всех еще раз поблагодарить за то, что вы приехали, и объявить конференцию Sociality 2011 Киев закрытой. А также хочу напомнить, что в феврале мы ждем всех вас на Sociality Rocks Moscow 2012. До встречи, спасибо!